Welcome back to Chess Tactic Today. Get ready for a masterclass in controlled chaos as we dive into a game featuring the one and only magician from Riga, Mikhail Tal. This isn't just a game. It's an attacking symphony against his own trainer, Alexander Koblents, where every single piece becomes a weapon of war. And we're off. White, played by the legendary Mikhail Tal, starts with pawn to e4, the king's pawn opening, immediately staking a claim in the center of the board. In response, Koblents plays pawn to c5, the Sicilian defense. This is a fighting reply, creating an immediate imbalance and signaling that black is not here to play for a quiet draw. Tal develops his knight to f3, a standard and flexible move that prepares to challenge black's central control and develops a key piece. And black responds with pawn to d6, solidifying his grip on the e5 square and preparing to develop his own pieces. This is one of the main lines of the Sicilian. White immediately challenges black's central pawn with d4. This is the open Sicilian, leading to sharp, tactical positions where both sides have chances. The game is heating up already. Black takes the pawn on d4, as expected. This trade opens the c-file for black's rook later on, a key strategic asset in the Sicilian. White recaptures with the knight, bringing another piece into the heart of the action. This knight on d4 will be a central figure for much of the game. Black develops his knight to f6, attacking the e4 pawn and continuing his development. The opening moves are flowing logically, but the tension is slowly building. Tal develops his other knight to c3, defending the e4 pawn and completing the development of his queenside knight, a very solid and standard setup. And there it is, pawn to a6. This is the hallmark of the Najdorf variation, one of the most complex and respected openings in all of chess. Black prevents any white piece from landing on the b5 square. Tal chooses the English attack setup with bishop to g5. This move puts immediate pressure on the f6 knight and prepares for a kingside assault. Black plays pawn to e6, blunting the bishop's influence and preparing to develop his own light-squared bishop. The battle lines are being drawn. Pawn to f4 from Tal. This is the key idea of the English attack, building a powerful pawn center and preparing to launch an attack against the black king. Black develops the bishop to e7, a solid, multi-purpose move. It breaks the pin on the knight and prepares to castle kingside to get the king to safety. Queen to f3. Tal is setting up his pieces perfectly for a queenside castle, which will connect his rooks and position his king away from the central storm. Koblents develops his queen to c7, connecting his rooks, adding support to the e5 square, and eyeing white's position from the side. There's the queenside castle. This is a declaration of war. Both kings are now on opposite sides of the board, which usually means one thing: a race to see who can checkmate the other first. Black develops his final knight to d7. This is a flexible move, supporting the center and preparing to challenge white's control. Bishop to e2. A quiet but useful developing move from Tal. He gets his bishop into the game and prepares to connect his rooks. Black plays pawn to h6, asking the white bishop on g5 a question: where are you going to go? This is a common way to gain space on the kingside. Tal retreats the bishop to h4, maintaining the pin and keeping the pressure on black's kingside. He's not ready to release the tension just yet. In response, black begins his queenside counterplay with pawn to b5. This is the classic Sicilian strategy. While white attacks on the kingside, black creates threats on the queenside. And here it is. This is pure Tal. He lashes out with the pawn break to e5. Instead of a slow build-up, he blows the position wide open, attacking the bishop on b7 and creating immediate, sharp complications. The quiet phase of the game is officially over. Koblents finds the best response, bishop to b7. This is a fantastic countershot, ignoring the threat and instead attacking Tal's queen on f3. The board is on fire. Tal follows through. Pawn takes knight on f6. He accepts the challenge, creating a dangerous passed pawn, and further opening lines toward the black king. Black recaptures, bishop takes queen on f3. This forces an exchange, but the complications are just getting started. White's bishop recaptures on f3. The position is a whirlwind of tactical possibilities, but notice that white now has two powerful bishops slicing across the board. Black plays pawn to d5, a brave move trying to lock down the center and challenge white's control. But this also creates new weaknesses. Pause for a moment and look at this. This is the move that makes this game immortal. Tal unleashes the thunderbolt sacrifice, knight takes e6. This is pure, unadulterated attacking genius. He gives up a whole piece just to rip open the f-file and drag the black king into a firestorm. This is the point of no return. Koblents has no choice but to accept the sacrifice. Pawn takes knight on e6. Now watch as Tal's remaining pieces spring to life. The attack begins immediately. Bishop to h5, check! The black king is forced out into the open. This is exactly what Tal wanted. Black is forced to play pawn to g6, creating a shield but also permanently weakening the dark squares around his king. Tal's bishop snaps off the pawn on g6. Check again! The attack continues relentlessly. The black king has nowhere to hide. The king is forced to f8. It's a sad journey for the monarch, being pushed from square to square with nowhere safe to rest. And now, white's f-pawn captures on e7 with check. This pawn is an absolute monster, deep in enemy territory and causing chaos. The black king continues its forced march to g7. It's out in the open, and Tal's pieces are closing in for the kill. A fantastic repositioning move. Tal moves his bishop to g3. It gets out of the way, opens the e-file for his rook, and prepares to join the attack from a new angle. Black brings his knight to f6, desperately trying to create a defensive blockade and challenge white's dominant e-pawn. Rook to e1. All of white's pieces are now joining the party. This rook puts immense pressure down the open e-file, directly targeting the weak e6 square. Koblents tries to generate some counterplay with pawn to b4, hoping to distract white on the queen side. But is there enough time? No, there isn't. Tal ignores the queenside threat and plays rook takes e6. He sacrifices the exchange to eliminate the key defender of the black king. What a display of courage and calculation. Black captures the knight, but this feels like a hollow victory. The white attack is now overwhelming. And now pawn to f5 from Tal. This move pries open even more lines and prepares to bring his light-squared bishop into the final assault. Black's queen moves to b7, a last-ditch effort to create threats against the white king along the b-file. Tal calmly plays pawn to b3, shutting down all of black's counterplay on the queen side. Now, he can focus completely on the checkmate. The black queen reroutes to d7, desperately trying to get back to defend the king. But it's too little, too late. This is the final, decisive blow. Bishop to e5. This quiet-looking move is absolutely crushing. It pins the knight on f6, threatens the queen, and prepares to deliver the final knockout. Black's position completely collapses under the pressure. Black is forced to give up his queen. Queen takes rook on e6. It's a move of desperation to stop the immediate checkmate threats. Tal recaptures with the f-pawn, and look at that pawn on e6. It's a dagger pointed at the heart of black's position. The black king captures the bishop on g6. He's won some material back, but he's fighting against an unstoppable force. The passed e-pawn. Rook to f1. Tal activates his last piece, putting pressure on the pinned knight and preparing to support the advance of his winning pawn. The knight moves to h7, the only square it can go to, but it's stepping out of the frying pan and into the fire. Tal's bishop takes the rook on h8. He's simply mopping up now, eliminating any remaining defenders. Black recaptures with the rook. The material is roughly even, but the position is not. That e-pawn is the star of the show. What a beautiful move to end the combination. Rook to f8, a brilliant deflection. Black cannot ignore this threat, and it forces him to give up his last defending piece. Black is forced to play rook, takes rook on f8. And now pawn takes knight on f8, promoting to a brand new queen. The attack has succeeded, and white is completely winning. Black's knight recaptures the new queen. But it doesn't matter. The other pawn pushes to e7, and this one is unstoppable. It will become a queen on the next move. The black king tries to get in front of the pawn, but it's one step too slow. Pawn captures on f8, promoting to a second queen with check. This simplifies the position into a trivially winning endgame for white. King takes queen. The dust is finally settled after a tactical hurricane, and white plays king to d1. The king begins its march up the board to support its remaining pawns, and at this point, Koblents resigns the game. A truly unforgettable performance. And that's the game, a breathtaking performance from Mikhail Tal, turning a standard opening into an immortal tactical masterpiece. It's a perfect reminder that in chess, courage and creativity can be the most powerful weapons of all. Thanks for joining us on Chess Tactic today.